This is the final part of my series of sessions showing how I built Ballymena in Line Loco number 5, or rather how I didn't quite finish building it because there's a lot of detail which I just abandoned in order just to get something in the trains to show you the final effect. So in the last session what I did is I split the model that I've been making into the main body with its attachment points, and the driving bogie is now away in a separate file as a separate model, and the leading bogie is now away also in a separate file. And those were both I went through how both of those were created and exported, and indeed how this was exported. And also what I needed to do was to check that the attachment points which I've put on the Loco, and this is a bare minimum, I mean there should be quite a few others, for example giving cab views, steam escaping from the cylinders and that sort of thing, but I've just kept it very straightforward at this stage. So really you should be able to get this into Trains, and I just, before I exported it, or rather used File Manager to bring it into Trains, what I did was I check through the config file to make sure that all of the attachment points which are listed here are also dealt with here, and here they refer to, for example, Twinkle's effects, which are loaded in the file here. You can see those. I accidentally attributed them to Adobe Acrobat Reader, but I mean they're not. But that's just silly. And so you can see that those attachment points where the smoke from the chimney, from the whistle, which isn't even modelled, but the attachment point is there. I think it's that one. Let's have a look. Well, let's select it. Yes, there it is. Look. So those attachment points, I've made sure I've got the same attachment points here as here, otherwise you'll get an error, it won't load. And there's my the folder with the main mesh body in, and these attachments here are the driver and the fireman, which are separate models. And then we've got a shadow here, which actually isn't the proper shadow for this. I've just lifted it from another narrow gauge Loco, so it is pretty odd at the moment. This is simply just to get it into Trains to show you. You can always come back and change these and re-export it back into Trains. I tend to do that quite a bit because I find lots of mistakes that I've made. Here are the two bogies that we made, and so I'm calling those up in the config entries, and then there's the queues for the coal that the Loco takes under water. I haven't worried about any of these, the amount of coal and the amount of water, that's all lifted from another Loco, so it's wrong for this one, but I don't care. I'm just trying it out in Trains. I'm not going to release it or anything. And there's the mass, essentially the weight of the locomotive. All is that's in kilos, and I think that's in litres. Not sure. Is it pints? Can't remember now. Anyway, if you go onto the wiki, you'll find you can look these things up very straightforwardly. They guide you through how to make one of these configs. And here's the engine spec which I'm using. I forget now whose that is, but many thanks for whoever it is. And similarly, the engine sound, that's my own horn sound. And I've got an interior there, which if I'd put in a cab view, then we'd be able to see sort of from inside the cab, but I've not even put that in. I just left that out completely. And there's the KUID table, the kind, and the KUID of this locomotive. Okay, so having exported the bogies and the there's the bogies in Trains Content Manager. So there's the leading, and in fact I haven't even given them correct names. That should have number 5 there in front of leading, and that should have the word bogie after driving, but nevertheless they're in. We can go back in and alter those. You've only got to right click and you can open up the config file if you want to, or you can open up the whole folder in Explorer and do all, and then you just, that's opening it for editing, and then you just resubmit it back to back into Trains. And then if we go right the way up here, there's all the trains that I've made, and there it is. There's the one that we brought in, and it throws up warnings like you haven't got what is it, level LOD, level of distance, or whatever that means, files there. So because I've just used one mesh and just left it as that just to get it in. So there we are. That's that's how I got it into Trains. And if we open Trains, have a look in Trains, here it is, and there's our little loco. This is in Driver, so let's give it a bit of oomph. Open up the regulator, and we can take a first look at it and see all the problems. And there are problems. I can see several straight away. First of all, what's very clear is that these two wheels here are wrong. See, there's the first of the driving wheels. These two need to be reset X form and then re-export, and then the whole bogie re-exported. Let's have a look on the other side if it's the same. No, what I've obviously done is I've copied one of these wheels and just turned it round and didn't reset it, reset the X form, so you get this strange sort of, if you look, I think you can see closely, I'll get down a bit. Oops. You can see that there's a sort of strange inside out sort of effect there. We're also getting some very odd effects from the shadow, because it's not the correct shadow for this locomotive, but it's in Trains. That's the key thing. It's pretty much as it looks in GMAX, and it's in Trains. But now of course we get the reflection, slight 5% reflection effect on the boiler side, and on the other bits of the lining out you can see all those little, an odd shadow effect because it's the wrong side. See the shiny bit there, there's a piece of the loco is missing there, lots of details missing, but altogether it gives us the loco. And I mean, look, it's running in Trains. Blow the whistle. I forget what the whistle's for now. Which one's the whistle? Anyway, bring it to a dead stop very unprototypically, and we haven't even modelled the whistle. And you can see the driver and fireman in there. Those are just two standard models that I've got, that I use based upon the old Oran figures, and I just mucked about with them a bit. And oh, by the way, these are all my standard gauge Clerestory GWR coaches in the background here. They're just re-gauged from the broad gauge and look a bit odd end on, but they are correct. So there we are. That's our Ballymena in Larne, sort of loco number 5 at the Bay of Peacock 260 ST saddle tank little loco. And once you've got to this position, then you will become more and more assured in what you're doing, because now I wouldn't hesitate to go back and alter things and re-export it. Perhaps even delete it from Trains if I wanted to, or just overwrite it. And overwriting it in Content Manager is very straightforward. If I open that up, it would just be in it would give the list in Explorer of the installed version of the loco. So I keep one version in my Trains projects folder, keep it under Tame New Models, even though it comes up as TS12, and I always keep those, and then from those that's what I then import into Trains. But this gives me my own original copy, as it were, of the exported files, plus of course I've got the original mesh files and all the texture files in GMAX and in the folder in under new models. So there we are. I hope that's been of interest. I hope that's been of help. Please ask me any questions if you're not sure about anything that I'm doing here. I'd rather rush through doing the config and the exporting into Trains, but I just wanted to get something into Trains to show you that all that I was doing is going to end up actually in the sim. I mean, looking at this now, I think I'd alter the texturing there. I think I'd also alter the texture there. The splashes aren't even there, but you can see, actually that shows it quite well. Look, you can see the wheel there, which is poking through the running plate, and there's the sort of inside out one there poking through. So those should be concealed by having the splashes modelled and put on there, and there should be a handrail, there should be valves here, should be a whistle, should be all the cab detail, which I've just left out. I don't know, quite a few other things as well. Some nice leaky cylinders, some steam coming out there, and occasionally the safety valve going off. So there we are, that concludes the series. I hope it's been of interest. If you've as I say, if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel, ING4Trains, because it encourages me to make more of these. And again, as I say, do post queries or comments onto YouTube, and I'll be happy to answer them.